you know, so it was hopefully letting you get a little bit of an idea of what happens, because he mentioned that layer that it was in contact with for the connective tissue, okay? So the skin, the epidermis, that part, didn't you like how it kind of showed it all mountainy and crusty and packed with all the stuff in it and everything? I just thought that was kind of cool. Okay, and then the bacteria. Yeah, okay. All right, so when we look at this system, you know, we're looking at the system that is giving us that protection from the exterior environment to the interior, something that I keep mentioning about this particular system. When we look at the integumentary system and we see that we're going to have structures that are present, because the structure of it, skin, hair, nails, glands, but the function, the physiology, protection, sensation, temperature regulation, vitamin D production, excretion. How? What do you think that means? Okay, we look at the glands, we're going to be able to have the sweat, okay, we're going to have the oil, all right, and sometimes when we sweat, there's going to actually be different compositions of it. Yes. And so what will happen is, when the skin does that, what it's trying to do, it's trying to make sure that it's keeping the core cool. Okay? And basically the core, meaning heart, lungs, organs, kidneys, that sort of thing, brain. Okay? So what it wants to do is it wants to push that heat away from it. But when the body's cold, how do you kind of feel on these extremities to the outer part of your body, to the perimeter of your body? These feel really cold because it's taking the blood and pushing it back to the core to make sure that the brain, heart, lungs, all the organs stay warm. So it's really cool what the body's going to do to maintain the core. And of course, part of that being the brain. So it's really kind of interesting. Immunity. So this organ that, you know, a lot of people don't normally think about a whole lot, okay? It's actually very important to the overall homeostasis to our body. Now, when we look at the layers of the skin, the outermost layer is our epidermis. The deeper layer underneath it is the dermis. Underneath that, because we're going to have that little bit of a basement membrane, and then it's going to be attached to the connective tissue. Do you guys remember the loose areolar connective tissue that we find all under the skin? That's going to be our sub-Q layer, the subcutaneous. A lot of times, people think that's a part of the skin, but it's not, all right? It's just simply what the layers of the skin are attaching to, and the cool thing about it, it's giving us a connection to all the stuff. We got connections to blood vessels, to other cells. You know, we've got all of this material that's being available for the other two layers of the skin. So sub-Q, a lot of it is the fatty tissue, and the reason that you want to get into the sub-Q layer with the needle given a shot, okay, is because it has such a good connection to blood vessels. You don't want to hit muscle with the shot, but you definitely want to get to the sub-Q layer. You know, just depends on how the shot's supposed to go. I ain't too happy with needles, period. But anyway, in the layers, the outermost layer, the the epidermis. Share it. Okay. Ta-da! Skin. Now what they're trying to show us in this little model that I brought out, okay? They're trying to show us the epidermis, okay? This really thin layer. See where we've got like this orange line that's sort of dividing it, okay? And then here, they're trying to show the actual layers spread out, okay? So if we could take this skinny portion and spread it out. And then, as we're looking at the layers that are going to be present, okay, we're going to see epidermis, dermis, get down here, got the subcu, okay, subcutaneous. I just don't like to say the whole term, all right, so my subcu. So in the epidermis, one of the things about it, it's avascular, so that is telling me there's no blood supply, okay? There's no blood supply in this layer. The way that we're going to get nourishment, and the nourishment is only going to be to the cells that are in the layer termed the stratum basale, okay? So the only thing that's going to happen is that like lowermost layer of the cells in that stratum basale are going to be getting actual nourishment, okay? As cells reproduce and increase in number, they're going to get pushed upward into other layers of the epidermis, and they're going to be dead. Now, things take place as that progression occurs, because by the time we get to the outermost layer, the stratum corneum, okay, by the time we get to that outermost layer, we want those cells to be dead. We want them to have the keratin that we've talked about, okay? Because, you know, one of the cool things about it, it's helping to keep us waterproof, which is kind of cool. Otherwise, we just simply blow up, you know. I imagine it only take once, so like I said, I can't even think of anything that could happen, you know, that would survive that. But anyway, so we're going to find layers, all right? And we're going to see that there's going to be a basement membrane that's going to be present. If we look at the epidermis, take a note as to what's happening here. This is my epidermis, and once I get further down, closer to the dermis, it looks like I'm doing this number, because it is. So we end up with this digitating structure between the epidermis and the dermis. And these areas that are digitating, well, like into the dermis, epidermis, these are called dermal papilla. Okay? Now, those create ridges in the epidermis. The most prominent area you see them is your fingerprint. That's what's making your fingerprint. The pushing up of the dermis into these little papilla, these little projections, making waves into the epidermis, which is kind of cool. So the epidermis, if we look at the layers, whether we look top down, bottom up, okay, their order. And, okay, so they do have it listed. So they're showing thick skin right here. All right, thin skin is not going to have one of the layers. Only 4 layers are going to be present. Okay, but the 5 layers that make up the epidermis, they're all termed stratum, strata, layer. Okay, that's what that means. So we have a stratum basally, the one that's closest to the dermis, stratum spinosum, because it's going to have like a spine-like appearance due to what's happening in the cells, stratum granulosum, because we're going to have granules that show up. Okay? Stratum lucidum, this is only visible in thick skin. Palms of the hands, soles of the feet. That's the only place. And then our stratum corneum, which is kind of cool. You know, it's kind of a cool name for it, because the way that I remember that outer layer, corn, because that's an overproduction of the cells at that particular layer, which is kind of cool. So when we look at the epidermis and the cells that are going to make up the layers, we're going to find different cell types that are going to be present. We're going to find keratinocytes. One of the things that I said is by the time we get to the outer layer, we want to make sure it's full of keratin so that we're being protected. The melanocytes, those contribute to skin color. Melanin actually gets transferred to the keratinocytes as we progress from basally to cornea. When I think the video kind of showed like the mentioning the melanocytes, okay, we all have the same number. It's just a matter of the expression. Langerhans cells, I know, kind of a weird name, named after, of course, the person who discovered them. That's going to be part of the immune system. Merkel cells, they go with our nervous system. They help with detecting touch, pressure. We're going to have other nerve endings that are present, okay, but they're not a cell, okay, because, you know, we've got thermoregulation, all this other type of stuff. Now, the cells in the deepest layer and a little bit in the spinosum, okay, they're going to undergo mitosis. Basally is very active in mitosis. Spinosum, not quite as much, because we're getting further away from the basement membrane and therefore further away from nutrient sources. That's why, as they go from basally up to the cornea, cells are going to die. Because they don't have any more access to nutrients and they can't get rid of waste. So they stop working. So the cells that are in that deeper layer and undergo mitosis, they're called desquamates. Keratinization. This is what's happening It's the process that's taking place as those cells move to the outermost layer, and they are going to be able to make this hardened shell, well, I wouldn't say hardened shell, but this tough outer portion of the skin. And that's a process that has to occur.